ran into the 4 girls, and they lost their lives. And then
Wait, he kills all 4 of them, like, on the spot? Alan Jackson from the Karen Reed case is representing our culprit.
And he says he saw a cell phone in his lap, and he thought he could have been texting.
This kid is out on a $4 million bond. So parents have money.
You must follow the law. The law says this is it a lawsuit? Probably. Why not?
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up. It's the Law with Attorney Larry Foreman. Folks, today I have something very special for you all. Some of you may have heard about the California case back in October 2023 when a young man was traveling down PCH, Pacific Coast Highway in California, and crashed and killed 4 Pepperdine students. Now, I have just recently become familiar with this case, and the only reason it is on my radar is because Alan Jackson, none other than Alan Jackson from the Karen Reed case, is representing our culprit. His name, Fraser Bohm. Now, Mr. Bohm is a young 23-year-old individual who has been charged with 4 counts of murder, with a lesser included manslaughter. He was not under the influence. He was not drunk. There was no complicity or intent on his part. So how can the prosecution can be pushing for murder? I mean, at the end of the day, there is no question. There are 4 dead Pepperdine students. And by the way, Alan Jackson went to Pepperdine University, so he is familiar with that area. He's from California, as most of you know by now. He specifically went pro hac vice in the Karen Reed case in Massachusetts. But I don't want to leave it all up to myself because I am still getting acquainted with this case. So today I bring you a very special guest. Her name is Ari Jacob. She has been following this case for quite some time. She is familiar with Bohm's family and Bohm himself. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Ari. Hey, Ari.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, good. So what can you tell us about this case? Because I saw that people are calling you the turtle boy of
Girl, actually.
or turtle girl. Aiden Carney is to Karen Reed is what Ari Jacob is to Fraser Bohm.
I had to deal with some sort of unfair media attention in the past. I sued the New York Times for it. And so I get somewhat triggered when I see that somebody is just being treated unfairly in the media. And though I absolutely feel terrible for the 4 families that had to endure those losses, I also don't believe that just because a powerful entity or media company or, because the DA or prosecutor says something that it's automatically true. And so when I see cases where maybe somebody's treated unfairly, I like to speak up. And so that's really what got me interested in this case and in this situation. And then, I think I've seen online how people are treating Fraser's family. And it's like, this kid made one mistake and they're like really throwing the book at him. I think it's to obfuscate the responsibility of Malibu and fixing a very, very dangerous road that killed over 60 people, I think.
So this is very important, and I want to come back to this. So let's put a bookmark. Let's go back. Tell our audience, if you don't mind, what exactly happened in October? What's the story? Everybody wants to know the story. How did it happen?
So from what I understand, Fraser was driving down PCH. He wasn't drunk or high, or I don't even think he was on his phone. I think they did analysis to figure that out. But anyway, he's driving down and there was 4 girls from Pepperdine. I believe they were in a sorority, and they get out of their Uber and he loses control of the car. I believe witnesses say he was going around 70 in a 45. And this road, by the way, is like a highway. There's no really there's not a lot of stoplights on it. So people drive on it like it's almost like a freeway. But it's like a very scenic kind of iconic. If you've ever been to California, that's where people want to drive to because the beach is right there.
Right.
And so he ran into the 4 girls and they lost their lives. And then
Wait, he
according
kills
to
all 4 of
Fraser-
them like on the spot, like on impact, or do they what
So,
do you know the
yeah.
details?
I think it was just immediate. Yeah.
Oh,
Like, I mean,
wow, that must have been. I mean, that's some impact to kill 4. I mean, one of them you might imagine,
if you're going,
maybe left alive with.
you're basically on a, what do they, I don't know what they call it in on the East Coast, but yeah, like freeway that you're going,
Yeah,
that's the fastest that, I don't know. It's not like a side road or something like that.
Sure.
It's basically like if you could just walk on the sidewalk on a freeway. It's so weird, that they haven't but there's no median there. And I guess that he had a brain bleed at that point. And he was sitting in the car and there was another driver earlier. They said that driver, his name was Victor Calandra. He was driving a truck and he says that he pulled up to Fraser at a stop sign
before
and
the
said-
accident.
What's that?
Before the accident.
Before the accident,
Uh-huh.
Victor Calandra says under oath that he stopped at a stop sign next to Fraser and basically said to him, "Hey," something along the lines of, "You're gonna hurt yourself or someone, like get off your phone." He says he saw a cell phone in his lap and he thought he could have been texting. Then they, I don't know how they sped up to the, what the distance was, but then at that point that he sees Fraser crash, I think Fraser said that he dragged him out of the car and screamed at him. And even in the pretrial transcripts, one of the witnesses says that they saw somebody basically screaming at Fraser, "Hey, you MFer." Look, it's something about MFer. That's what I heard. And then basically sits there with him until the police come. So I don't know. People have said that he was trying to flee or get away, but none of the court documents that I've seen show that Fraser was trying to leave the scene.
Yeah.
This guy, Victor, has, I think, changed his story a couple times, and I believe he has a former road rage incident in the past where he, I think,
Oh, really?
got into a physical altercation with someone. So anyway, they keep him.
Did
at the
Fraser
scene.
know this, that Victor has gotten into some previous altercations
I think
before
they
with
talk
road rage?
about it in the pretrial hearing.
Okay.
His original attorney was a guy named Michael Kraut. They talk about that. There's not a lot. I mean, do you want to explain? I didn't really understand why is there like a pretrial thing? Does that get
Sure.
shown in court or how does that work?
So, from my understanding, California is vastly different than the rest of the country, as I'm sure you know, in many different aspects, and court proceedings included. That's what confused me the most when I first heard about this case from you yesterday, because in my research, I was under the impression that his jury trial starts on August 28th. But then somebody corrected me in the comments. I actually had to issue a correction because I was like, wait a minute, not his jury trial, his arraignment is scheduled for August 28th, 2025. And then my lawyer brain went, wait a minute, the accident happened like 22 months ago. Why is he being arraigned 22 months after the fact? And from what I understand, California does their preliminary hearings and they take them very, very seriously. And the way that California law approaches the situation is first something that more prosecutors, I think, could actually learn from, to be completely honest with you, which no system is perfect, but this is better than most systems because, for instance, in Kentucky, if this happens, you are going to have a preliminary hearing within 10 days of your arrest. 10 days. And of course, you can get it pushed out, but I mean, there's only so far you can go. From what I understand, what happened with Fraser, in his case, the prosecutors have been providing all sorts of discovery before the preliminary hearing. They are literally preparing for a preliminary hearing that's kind of like a mini jury trial to determine whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to charge the kid with 4 counts of murder. I mean, at the end of the day, they charged him with murder, which requires, at the very least, if they charge him with murder second, requires maybe not malice aforethought, which is murder first, but it is going to require some sort of intent. And I think the prosecution is going to use the alleged speed, which they're claiming was 104. According to the black box from my research, this is what I have found. They're going to charge him with murder because they think they can show intent based on his speed. I don't know. It's a real stretch when you really think about it, especially when you take into consideration that others, like Caitlyn Jenner, for instance, have also been involved in accidents leading to fatalities and then later not being charged. Now, I think Jenner's case is a little bit different because Jenner's black box was shown that she was hitting her brakes allegedly and slowing down and trying to avoid a collision, and it ended in a collision anyway. Whereas with Bohm, the problem with him is that he was going a little too fast, according to the prosecution. Now, the defense and Alan Jackson are going to be claiming road rage. So basically all of that
and just
it's taken about 2 years.
Him doing the road rage, because I think people are confused. It's like the defense is basically saying that he was cut off and or provoked by another driver and lost control.
Thank you for clarifying.
And
Go ahead,
he was
Ari.
like literally like out. I think it was his birthday on that night. So I think it was his 21st birthday, or maybe the night before he turned 21. And so he was just getting tacos for his friends, and this happened, and it's basically. I think for me, it's hard to compare him to the consequences, I think, of murder. If he gets convicted of that, it's like 15 years to life per person. And are you going to charge this kid and have the same consequences as like literally Brian Kohberger,
Right. I mean, 4 victims in each one, and what the difference maker is between the two cases, right?
Right.
So, Ari, you started to tell us about PCH, California Pacific Highway. Can you tell us a little bit more about the highway itself and the deaths that have been accumulating on that road, and why and how?
Yeah, and there's been several since the Fraser accident. From what I can tell, it's just people are going too fast on that road. And especially this happened at night with Fraser. And so that's even more dangerous. I think there's police officers and CHP that are giving tickets and things like that. But there's very few...
CHP is California Highway Patrol, for those of you.
And there's very few street light or stoplights and stop signs. I think then they've done very little to like fix the issue. They've put I think they painted some lines on the roadway so that it makes it seem like you're going faster than you are and makes you want to slow down. But it just seems like the infrastructure is not right. And as a lot of people know, a lot of that a couple years ago, it looked very different because Malibu obviously was affected by the California fires. And so I think if there was any time to fix that stretch of highway, which people call Dead Man's Curve, it would be, now and maybe put up some medians and put up those, I forget what they're called, but they're like those big metal kind of like dividers or posts.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what they're called.
Metal posts, yeah.
So that you can't, it's almost like a wall so that you can't like run into somebody that's walking. Because I really it's so dangerous. There's no way to cross from the other side, but people are going to the beach and there's restaurants right there. So it doesn't seem like that should be set up that way if people are bombing down it, I think for people to go 60 on that would not be, you wouldn't feel like you're speeding, but you are.
What's the speed limit there? 45?
I think it's 45. It's between 45 and 50, depending on what part of the road you're on.
Wow, that is fairly slow when you think about it. When most highways are at least 55, and most highways are even 60 or 75 around the country.
Yeah. I guess you kind of have to have been there to understand what it is, but obviously 60 people have died, I think, since 2010. And Caltrans has said that they're implementing these things. I believe they have the funding to do it. But if you go back and look, it's like, what have they actually done? And so I believe that there's a couple lawsuits that the victims' parents are suing the city of Malibu, and now the city civilly, and now the city of Malibu has turned around and is suing Fraser Bohm and his parents.
Really? Well, that makes sense. In a vacuum, it doesn't make any sense at all when you think about it logistically. Why is the city going to be suing the one person who, and look, I find this case very fascinating because on the one hand, you have 4 victims. You have 4 dead young females who are just out and about, like you said, from a sorority, college kids, college students, just trying to have some fun, going out to a party. And on the other hand, you have an individual who's driving at night on a very dangerous road, on a very dangerous highway, a highway where many people have been killed. And it just so happens that he kills them. Now, some of you in the comments to my post on Twitter rightfully pointed out, and I do not want to discount your position by any stretch of the imagination. There should be accountability, 100%. There should be culpability, 100%. But where is the line drawn? Where is the line in the sand? I mean, do we get this kid for murder? If so, how do you prove intent? I mean, maybe manslaughter. A lot of you seem to concede, like, yes, he should get something, maybe manslaughter at most. Well, I don't know what manslaughter is in California, 1 to 5, maybe 5 to 10, something like that, per victim. And again, is it right for him to be serving a lengthy prison sentence if he does get convicted of these charges? Or is he a victim of circumstance? And of course, there's the central piece of all this. But anybody who is going to be looking at this case is going to find out very quickly. This kid is out on a $4 million bond. So parents have money. This is not a speculation. He's a son of a rich family, the son of rich parents. That is a fact. Very few people on this planet can post a $4 million bond for their child to get out while the case is pending. I think the judges.
The money? What do you think it would be, like 400,000? You'd have to put down or like what percentage of that?
Well, you would have to request the court to 10% it, yes. And the court can grant it or they can deny it. It's still a lot of money, exactly. I'm assuming the court kind of made a statement. They're like $1 million per victim. That's my hypothesis. I could be wrong about this. But, usually murder cases are about $1 million, even in Kentucky. They range from $250,000 to $1 million bond.
This is the issue that all the media has picked up, which I think is so unfair that, okay,
Tell us.
Yes, it's a privileged person, perhaps, and yet what does that have to do with anything, right? I mean, obviously the fact that he's out on bond, but the thing is, it's like this, I believe that the justice system is so that, if somebody's doing something bad, that they don't do it again and they don't go out and hurt other people, or they don't have, but this is somebody that was not drinking and driving. And I want to say, I have to look through the documents, but I think they already looked at his phone and that they said he wasn't texting and he wasn't on his phone. They can look at that information, because if he was, then that the prosecutors probably would have already put it in there, right? And so I didn't see any of that. I don't believe that was a factor. I think this witness, I'm interested in learning more about the people that were there, because I think one person left the scene. I think it'll be interesting to get more into the pretrial hearings and what was said. But what bothers me is that it's not like a eat the rich moment. Like, this is somebody's life.
Right.
And although people lost their lives, he wasn't Brian Koberger out there like looking to hurt somebody. I mean, it's not right to just because he didn't choose his parents. And then what they did, the media, is they went in and they looked at his parents' divorce proceedings, which I didn't even know you could do this. And they basically were able to say, oh, he was gifted the BMW by his dad on his 18th birthday. It was like a 2016 BMW. And I guess he got a full ride to college. So the dad was like, okay, if you get a full ride, then, I'll get you a car, basically, which, I mean, I'm from California. I wasn't born there, but I was raised in California, went to San Diego State, and like a lot of kids had way cooler cars than 2016 BMW. But So I'm not like defending that, but at the same time, I'm just like, what does it have to do with anything? Yes, the fact, I guess the privilege that he's not in jail right now, but I'm not like worried that he was going to go out and like do this again, right? Because it's just, it could, I really believe it could happen to anybody. And then the prosecutors going out there and saying that it was 104 miles an hour, that's also troubling. And there was some experts that have been commenting and looking at the situation. And so basically, the 104 per hour thing came from wheel speed. So if a car is airborne, the wheel's speed can track at 104 miles an hour. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's kind of hard for me to explain it because I'm not an expert in that, but that makes sense to me. That was the wheel speed. The other factors, I forget what they were. The two other factors I think put him at like 70 miles an hour or just under, which is still speeding, but it's not 104. And the other thing too is I think that it would have been impossible for him to get up to 104 miles an hour if two witnesses put him at about 70. How was he going to go from a stop sign and then to 70 miles an hour and have been next to the other driver and then all of a sudden get to 104?
Exactly. So, Ari, there is a lot of interesting speculation surrounding this case because on the one hand, as I started to say, we have 4 dead young women who were college students, and on the other, you have a young male who is, being charged with the murder of those 4. I brought up Caitlyn Jenner as an example. You know how old the victim was in Caitlyn Jenner's vehicular homicide, Ari?
No.
He was 70. He was a 70-year-old male. And I can't help but wonder if they're trying to make Fraser into like a poster boy for whatever reason and like targeting him because 4 young females versus 1 rickety old 70-year-old man nobody cares about. I don't know. It's starting to weigh a little bit, I don't want to be some conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but this brings me to Gascon.
He was a former DA, so
He is a
now
former
there's
DA.
new.
All right, so here's what one user had to say. This is Hey Nikki. She says, I think murder is a step too far, especially when most of the accidents that have occurred in that very spot under the same conditions had been charged far more leniently than Fraser has. District Attorney Gascon was being called out for being too soft on crime, and he was facing a contentious re-election. Remember, we talked about this, Ari. He charged Bohm based on public pressure and personal motivation, not based on the typical charges for the 60-plus other deaths that occurred in that very spot of PCH, the law, or the facts. Bohm wasn't driving drunk, and he stayed at the scene and rendered help as best that he could. He didn't run off. He didn't flee the scene. He was cooperative with law enforcement. I thought murder requires premeditation with malice aforethought. You bring up a very good point, Nikki. Show me where he planned this. Show me where he knew the victims and their whereabouts at that time and date. Show me where he had any interactions with the victims leading up to their deaths. Show me where he planned to kill anyone at any time. Nothing about this case screams murder. Vehicular manslaughter I can get behind, but not murder. What do you think about that, Ari?
Yeah, I mean, that part is just wild to me. I think he may have made some statements like to the cops or the paramedics when they arrived. And again, like he had a brain bleed. So I don't know what is ultimately going to be, what can be allowed about what he said. Do you know anything about that? Like if somebody is speaking to police or something and they have like a brain bleed or something like that?
Well, sure. If you have a concussion, a brain bleed, anything that would make you speak and say things that may not be coherent or concurrent with reality. Sometimes from a very bad concussion, you can also have delusions. I mean, this is extremely common. I have clients who get arrested for DUI on a regular basis. When there's an accident, the police officer will just conduct field sobriety tests like nothing happened. I had one case where I think the guy started bleeding out of his ear in the middle of field sobriety test, and the officer notices it, and he literally goes, hey, I think you got some stuff coming out of your ear, bud. Anyway, so back to the steps. They don't care. The police don't care at all. They will question you. They'll interrogate you. They will do their job, quote unquote. And it's horrible. It's horrible. Your rights, basically, as soon as you are accused of a crime, your rights go out the window as a civilian. It's very unfortunate,
Right.
but it's true, and I've seen it so many times it'll make your head spin. Have you or someone you love been injured as a result of someone else's negligence? Or worse, lost a loved one because of it? I am attorney Larry Foreman, and myself and my team of trial lawyers are ready to help you to get the absolute maximum compensation permissible under the law. We know the system. We understand how to win. Anywhere in the United States, 24 hours a day. 1-844-774-HURT. Call us. We can help.
Yeah, so I think what I heard was that he like said, they're asking, he's basically out of it. He's in shock. There's a guy that like drags him out of the car and is like screaming at him. This, the kid's in shock. He sees what just happened. And I can only imagine, like, you're just like, what just happened? Like, I mean, it's terrifying and it's terrible what happened. But if they were, I don't know if at this point they were asking him questions or if he said it in the past, but basically I think he had like a best friend who had passed away in a car accident. So I think that they asked him, like, aren't you aware of what speeding can do or what car accidents can do? And he might have said, like, yeah, my friend died from this. And so I don't know if they're using that as well to say, like, he knew.
What does that have to do with anything? His knowledge that it's a dangerous road? He's trying to get away from someone who is acting a fool and could actually cause him to wreck in a different direction. He was trying to get away from somebody, as I understand it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what he said. That basically this guy in the truck.
This is what Fraser said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he was being followed or that he was driving recklessly. And then
who was driving recklessly?
I believe that Victor Calandra, the witness that dragged him out of the car, was the one that was already sort of having some kind of anger issue. That's the one that said he was on his phone and he like screamed at him. But I believe he was like basically like chasing him and
chasing Fraser.
Yep. And Fraser tried to kind of like speed up to get out of his way. There was another car there.
So Fraser was speeding up to get out of Victor's way.
Correct.
But not 104.
No.
At most 70, which is still almost, 1.5 times the speed limit.
Yeah. So I think we can get into those transcripts because it's hard to follow because you don't get to really see. There's video footage that they show in the pretrial thing, and I wasn't able to see that. So I think maybe, if two people are looking at it, there was another car as well, another witness that I think left the scene. I'm not sure if the defense was asking like if they had clipped Fraser's mirror, but there was also another car there. So I believe like at the actual, when this was all going down, there was 3 cars. There was Fraser's white BMW, there was a GMC truck, and then there was another, I want to say it was a Honda Civic, but I can't remember.
Got it.
So
and
I think it'll be important to break down like who was all there. And then the other thing is when all this happened, I don't believe that they investigated, like, was Victor Calandra on his phone? Was the other car person on their phone? How fast were they going? Because I think it's very easy. Like if let's say 3 cars are on the road and there's an accident. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear that one car hits 4 girls.
Right.
What are the other 2 people going to do? I didn't do it. It was that guy, right? Like you don't want to have any culpability at all. So to me, it makes sense. And I'm not blaming those witnesses at all. I don't know enough details to say exactly what happened. I'm just going through all this, because there's interest in this case. So I'm going through all this. But my point is, don't you think it's worth asking? Like, what were those other people? Were those other people on the phone? Were they speeding?
Right.
What were they doing?
Exactly. What have you been able to find out since this case? I understand that you have been in communication with Bohm and his family. I mean, I'm not actually in direct communication with them. I just I met Fraser briefly, and honestly, I don't think he's like a monster by any means. Like, I just don't understand how somebody could
make a mistake on a road that I'm telling you, everybody goes 55, 65 on that road that
Yeah.
I've seen. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people do. And I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying there's an issue with that. He wasn't a drunk. I think have you heard of the Henry Ruggs? He was a Raider football player, and he killed drunk driving a woman and her dog. And anyway, I think he's about to get out of jail. It's only been a few years. He's actually even saying he's going to go back to the NFL. There was another influencer that was driving down PCH. I think she was at the famous sushi place. I forget what it's called in Malibu, and drinking, and she hit and
Summer?
killed somebody. What's that?
Is it
Nobu.
No, yeah, Summer was her name. Summer something.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she was charged with vehicular manslaughter.
But she
I
was
get
under
it
the
that
influence, as I understand,
she was
right?
drunk. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was under the influence.
Yep. But that seems normal. If you're under the influence, you have a level of culpability. And I think the prosecution is trying to paint Baum as this monster, as you call him. He's not a monster. They're saying, well, yes, he is, because he intentionally sped up and thereby causing an accident in a road that he knew the dangers of.
He has more culpability because he knew what he was doing. I'm just like, how is
Maybe.
that?
I don't know. But so how does Gascon come into all of this from your research?
Well, he didn't get reelected. Now it's Nathan.
But how did he use Baum? How did he use Fraser for his own campaign? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I think there was just a big uproar, obviously, like you said,
From the families of the victims.
Yeah, there's 4 beautiful women that were killed, but they're not happy with the city of Malibu either, and I side with them on that. Then the city is suing Fraser. So to me, it feels like they're trying to skirt responsibility. Don't look over here, look over there.
Right.
Because if we actually look into what has happened on PCH and what's been done, I think we would see it's giving, there's no water in the, when Malibu burned down, why isn't there any water in the water tanks? That's the vibe it's giving me, is why haven't we fixed this road that we know is dangerous? Let's just point over here and blame Fraser.
Exactly. There it is.
And driving and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's just, to me, that's not right.
So what I think we should do now, Ari, is I think we should get our hands on some of those transcripts. And I want to do this again, and I want to start going through the case to get, the devil's in the details, as we always say. And I want to do a deep dive with you, if you don't mind, on my channel, your channel. We can do whatever.
It's been kind of crazy, to be honest, because I first posted on TikTok, and it's clear that a lot of the family, a lot of the friends and family of the 4 girls are on TikTok, and they were really unhappy about the fact that I was posting on there. And it really breaks my heart, because I don't want to fight. I don't want to be fighting with the families.
Sure,
I think that what happened is terrible. But at the same time, if they were fed this number, they keep saying in the comments, 104 miles an hour, 104 miles an hour. And there's nuance to this. And it's not exactly, to me, it's if the wheels are spinning at 104 miles an hour after the crash, then people need to say that. I mean, the truth is the truth, whether you like it or not, right? And it's it doesn't.
And the issue,
the fact that 4 lives were lost, but
the issue with 104, just for those of you who may be lost in the audience watching this right now, is that there is discrepancy. The 104 is not a hard and fast number, as I understand. The extraction from the black box can be inaccurate and misleading depending on the way it's extracted, the way it's analyzed. So that's where Alan Jackson comes in. He is going to try, I suppose, and figure out this 104 number, bring in experts to explain why the 104 is incorrect. So you can't hang your head on this 104 like they're doing, because it may not be accurate, right?
Right. And I think there's also numbers that say there was unknown, or something it didn't track.
Because computers make mistakes.
Can get into, but
yeah,
I think that it's going to be easy. That's going to be the prosecution's biggest problem, is to prove that he was going 104.
Yep. I agree. Well, Ari, listen, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are definitely doing this again.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to have an actual attorney. I'm just reading through this, like trying to understand it. So I think everybody else is going to, feel good that an actual lawyer is looking into this. I appreciate it.
I'm like Elaine Bredehoft. I'm trying, Your Honor. I'm trying. Well, folks, I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned something. I mean, what a tragedy. What a sad tale. What a sad story. 4 young girls dead because of one man. But his level of culpability, again, does it rise to murder? Isn't it the city's responsibility to make sure that the highway is fixed? Why is he being treated differently than others? Is it because he's wealthy? He's the son of a wealthy family? Why wasn't Caitlyn Jenner or Summer from the Nobu restaurant? Why are they being treated differently? One is being charged with murder, the other is not. Again, there are so many questions. There are so many unanswered problems in this case. But at the end of the day, make no mistake about it. We have a young man who is being overcharged, in my humble opinion. And we have 4 victims that deserve justice. How do you square those two away? I mean, the civil lawsuits to compensate for their death, is that enough? To give money to the family by the city and or Bohm's family, is that enough? Should he be serving jail time? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Is it murder? Is it murder 2? Is it manslaughter? Is it something less? By the way, don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.